Hello and welcome to Success is Never Accidental, the show where we get to explore all the different factors that contribute to success, and we get to interview some highly successful people. Our guest this morning is Kirsty Lockhart. Kirsty owns West End Letting, an estate agency and letting service in Glasgow in Scotland. Or for you Americans out there, she's a realtor who has a real estate agency which really focuses on looking after the student market in Glasgow, which is a big university city in Scotland. I've known Kirsty for many years, and she has developed from she studied finance and has gone from being a finance assistant in a lettings agency to owning her own business. So help me welcome Kirsty Lockhart. Hi, Kirsty. How are you today?
Hello, Lynne. I'm really good. How are you?
I'm great. And thank you so much for joining us, because your journey has been very, very interesting. And on this program, we really look at what are the kind of decisions people make, or what is it that actually influences them to make the choices that they make, Kirsty, because life is all about choices. So you actually studied finance in university, and then you went on to be in the finance section of a lettings agency. So how did you transform from that into actually owning your own business?
So I started in finance for a property agency, and as it were, one of the members of staff on the property side of the business had left, and I was asked if I wanted to move to the property side. I was a bit nervous and scared at first. I didn't know anything. I'd come from a finance background, but I gave it a go. I loved it. So I was there for about 2 years, picked up loads of information about property management, rentals, landlords, loads of different markets, and then had gone from there to work with a very specialist HMO or student let agency in the West End. I loved that too. I worked there for about 4 years, and me being me, wanted to learn more, diversify, get more out, focus on the student market, student accommodation market, and accepted a job or a role within a student accommodation. I was only there for about 6 weeks when I realised that it was a mistake. It was a huge mistake. We no longer knew people by names, but instead by room numbers. We were chasing, all communications went via room 304 and room 208. No one in there knew names. It was a very large international business, and there were very, very many staff and people above me. We could never get the answers we wanted. We were just not offering the service to students who were paying thousands and thousands of pounds for their accommodation, but also a service. And so I really didn't enjoy that.
Let me
I
stop you there, because you've just opened so many doors there. Why, first of all, you're really demonstrating that we create our path by the decisions we make,
Yeah,
and the choices we make have to be aligned to our values.
of
So
course.
what was it that made it so uncomfortable for you to stay in that agency?
I found it really uncomfortable having to follow that company's practices. Things like emailing huge lists of people to say that their rent was overdue, rather than making it personal and touching base with a specific person and offering to chat with them. Things like charging their cards rather than, again, giving them the opportunity to maybe set up a payment plan if they were in difficulty. Mainly when students came to the desk, they were met with a receptionist. The receptionist would take a message, and then we would have to call them or email them back. We couldn't chat to them there and then. So we were based off site, whereas the students lived in the accommodation and they had a receptionist that they dealt with, who basically just took messages. And as
So
part
for
of
you, it was the relationship that was missing. Why are
the
relationships so critical, Kirsty, to doing business?
So I love to talk, as you may know. I love to talk. I love meeting people. I love learning about people, where they've come from, what their history is, and to really minimize it to one email back and forward, or to chase room 308 for rent rather than a person. It was horrible. I felt as though I was behind bars, and I felt as though we were not providing the service that the tenants or the students thought that they were paying for. There was a complete lack of service, a complete lack of human touch. That's really important to me, because you need to strike up the relationships if you're providing a service, but then also people are coming from all over the world. It's maybe their first time, they're 18, maybe their first time abroad, and to come over and be sort of locked in their room and left alone until we need them for rent or need them for inspections it's just not
So,
nice.
so fast forward,
Hmm.
you recognize that you're dealing with vulnerable young people. They're
Yeah.
coming from different countries, never mind different towns within Scotland. And they can be quite isolated. So one of the people who actually is quite important to them at that early stage is
Yeah.
the person who helps them find accommodation and understand how that process works. So how did you make relationships such an important part of the way your company does business?
Our company works from one office. There is no manager's office or maintenance office. We all sit in the one room, the one space. Everyone picks up everyone's phones, everyone updates everyone else's notes. There are constant meetings. So we have a meeting on a Monday, a meeting on a Friday, just to make sure that everyone is touching base. We're speaking with landlords, we're updating tenants. We have our spreadsheet and our databases just to make sure that they're completely updated, so that when anyone answers the phone, we can speak to them and not have to put them on hold or take a message or ask someone else to get back to them. That's really frustrating.
There's nothing more frustrating, Kirsty, when you know there's only 3 people in an office and you get that automated machine that says press 1 for Kirsty and press 2 for, and you go, just somebody pick up the phone. So your philosophy is that if the phone rings, somebody picks it up and people get to talk to a person.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you went then from working in that particular organization, which helped you understand what you didn't want to do going forward. How
Yeah.
did you get to the point where you were confident enough to set up your own agency?
Lynn, if I'm being completely honest, I was not confident at all. I thought, however, now is the time. This is what I want to do. If I don't take this opportunity now, I'm never going to do it. I'm just never going to reach out, and I'm never going to do it. So I reached out to people that I knew previously. I spoke to friends and family. I set up social pages. I wrote up blogs, and I went for it. I advertised online. I set up the company. I spoke to the accountant. And initially, it was really about building relationships, speaking to people. I wanted to be well known. I wanted to be known for property. And so that if anyone thought, property issue, Kirsty would be the person to speak to. And that was my initial plan. From there, my dream was and still is to be present in the market. I would class myself as a small business, and small business longevity is something that I really strive for. We hear so many unsuccessful small businesses, and
Oh, the
we're
statistics are horrible. I mean, I think it's something like 80% of small businesses fail in the first 5 years. So you're
yeah,
you're long past that 5-year mark now. So that's
yeah,
good.
yeah. So every day, part of my everyday life now, owning a business is still about efficiency of operations, having the systems there, being set up, ready to go, being able to provide a service that customers, clients, landlords, tenants, contractors are happy with, but then also to make sure that my employees, my colleagues and teammates are satisfied when they come to work. It gives them something to get up every day for and be excited to work in the role that they're in.
And teams are so important. So tell us a bit about how you've developed the team. How did you decide? And I notice actually looking at your website, you're an all-girl band at the moment.
We are.
But I know you've had some amazing male employees in the past. But how do you pick people to fit with your team? I suppose for starters, that all comes down to values. And we've heard some of your values already, Kirsty. You value interpersonal relationships. You value following through on what you said. You also gave us an indication. It's a very knowledge-based approach. You wanted to understand everything about the various aspects of the job. What are some of your other values for your team and your agency?
So when picking a team member, the team member have to fit in with our existing team. At the start of the business, when I was ready to recruit my first team member, my first colleague, that was the most difficult decision for me because it was very personal, and I felt like I was welcoming them into my space, and I was going to let them loose on everything that I'd worked hard for, and it was really about trusting another person. The first team member came in, she took to it straight away. She's still with us now. She is phenomenal at what she does. And then following on from that, the next employee, I had to make sure fit with myself and employee one. And then the next employee had to fit in with myself, employee one and employee two. So it's really about people. And as much as I truly believe that someone can do the job, but they have to have that personal level of personal skills to be able to mix with the team, speak to clients, and really enjoy the job too. A lot of people will see a job as just a job and it pays the bills, but if they're coming to work and they're going to be with us for quite a long time, Monday to Friday 9 to 5 is a lot of hours in their day, so everyone has to gel and everyone has to fit together.
So you're looking for people with staying power, you're looking for people with commitment. It's clear that you want people with good communication skills, and you want people who really care about your clients and your tenants.
Absolutely.
When you have your meetings, you said that you're very focused on bringing everybody together for meetings. What's the focus of your meetings?
So we have a Motivation Monday, which gets us geared up. We deal with everything over the weekend. We discuss any problems that we foresee that week. We discuss any new properties that are coming on, anyone moving out, any major maintenance issues, etc. Everyone has their tasks written down. Everyone knows what they have to do for that week, but there's constant communication. So whilst I know what I'm doing that week, I know that I have to work in with Katie, for example, on a property. I have to work with Keris, for example, on a repair. So everyone is gelled together from the start of the week. On a Friday, we have what we coin as a Tidy Friday meeting. And part of the Tidy Friday meeting is, number one on the agenda is always, what have you put off this week? Let's get it done. Let's get it done. So it's not gonna take over and ruin your weekend. Let's focus and let's really get it done and get it ticked off. But again, as part of that, we go through our lists, tick off everything that we've done, and then it makes us feel like we've had a really productive week. And we sort of forecast into next week, but so that, again, just so that everyone is singing from the same hymn sheet, everyone has the same property list, everyone is updating their notes. I feel the Tidy Friday meeting is a wee bit less jokey. It's about getting it done. We finish at 5 o'clock today. Let's go and have an amazing weekend, but let's focus whilst we're here.
So I love that. Those are great titles, Motivational Monday and Tidy Friday. But really what you're saying is it's about plan and review. On Mondays, you're planning the week. By Friday, you're reviewing. What did we get done? But I also love how you accept that procrastination is a human issue. We all do it. So taking that time to actually name it. What did we not get done? Never worry about the why we didn't get done. The question becomes how? How do we get it finished now? What do we need to do? So I have favorite sayings, and one of them is, what needs to happen to get this done, because very often that's the question that triggers just the one or two simple things. And often we don't even know we're procrastinating. It's just that we kept moving it from today's list onto tomorrow's list but your mantra is, let's not move it onto next week's list. Let's clean up the week within the week, which is such a great philosophy. Things don't always go according to plan, Kirsty. Can you tell us about one or two times maybe when you hit a bump in the road and what you did about it, and more important, what you learned from it?
Definitely, there has been times where I've felt that I have maybe stumbled or taken a bit of a long road to get somewhere. Setbacks, such as, if someone's unhappy, a client is unhappy. I think in the moment you're very, let's get it done, let's do what we have to do, let's fix it, let's tidy it up, let's make sure everyone's happy. However, more recently, I have learned to step back and to actually go back to your mantra, Lynne, there, to say what needs to happen. What do we need to do to get this done? I step back, look at what had happened, figure out what has gone wrong from start to finish, learn about it. Sometimes it's really just phoning the person, admitting a mistake, and admitting, look, I'm sorry we've dropped the ball on this. This is what we're going to do to correct it moving forward. We're going to do this, this, and this. We'll check in with you in 2 weeks to make sure that you're happy and that it's done. But loads of time is spent, I think, in the moment. If you're ever answering an unhappy client call, it's a case of you're stuck in the moment and your mind is racing and you're writing down your list of 10 things that you have to do. But it's not until you step back out of it, take yourself for a glass of water or even a walk sometimes and say, hang on, this is really simple fix. We know what we've done wrong and we know how to fix it. But following on from that is putting new procedures in place or making sure that staff or my colleagues, team members are trained and that we've hit a bump and we know how to do this going forward. Communicating it with everyone in the office I've found has been really good rather than hiding it. For example, a bad review, there's no point in hiding it because no one learns from it. No one learns what we did wrong, how we went wrong, and how we improve on it. So everything that we take in is absolutely constructive criticism, and we need to learn from it and put things in place to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, and sometimes we learn more from our failures and the things that went wrong than from our successes. On
Yeah.
a Friday, you're celebrating all your successes, which is great, and it's really important we do that. It is equally important that, as you say, we own up and take personal responsibility when something goes wrong. Now, you have to do that as the business owner, or your reputation suffers. How do you help the people on your team to be as transparent as you are and as willing as you are, Kirsty, to take personal responsibility and accept that something went wrong?
So I actually had a conversation just yesterday with one of my team members where she was doing her utmost to respect the landlord, to respect the prospective client. The prospective client, just, we could not get them through referencing. We'd done everything. Their references were coming back unsatisfactory. Their money didn't stack up, etc. And so when my colleague had phoned the landlord initially, she'd said, I mean, they're really nice people. And she was doing her hardest to really try and be professional with the people that she was dealing with. And that was great. However, at a time where we're about to move this tenant in, we know what we know. I had said to her, let's be completely transparent here with the landlord. We have nothing to lose here. We've everything to lose if we proceed with this tenant and they're not the right tenant. So let's just pick up the phone to the landlord and say, hiya, I'm going to be completely honest with you here. I think we should pull out. Here are the reasons why, 1, 2, and 3. And she did it. And the landlord said, thank you for your honesty. And the landlord said, that's fine. Let's not proceed with this tenancy. Let's try again. And so part of her major learning curve there was that she felt as though she worked for the tenant and tried her hardest to get the tenant in, when in actual fact all she had to do was have a really frank and honest conversation with the landlord. It would have caused us so many more issues had we not done that. But in her eyes, she was trying her hardest to be really professional rather than just to be really honest and really human about it. And so that was a great learning exercise yesterday for everyone in the office.
Because when you're a relationship-based organization, you want everybody to be happy, and you've still got to follow the rules, the regulations. And you mentioned earlier how important it is to your success that you have systems and processes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can regardless of what industry we're in, systems and processes are so important. Can you say a little bit about why they help you to be efficient? Another word you used earlier.
Yeah. So back when I initially started, there were only a few systems, and things like spreadsheets are great when they work. They, however, are not great for a growing team, and multiple people being in the file trying to change it at the same time, etc., just didn't work. So I had gone to research a property database, and they were up and coming at the time when I initially started out. I'm now actually on their feedback role, so I work with them to improve the system, to give them feedback and to figure out which parts of the systems we could work better, because I work in the industry. So part of the systems, we use many systems. We use an initial database, and that records the addresses and the tenant names and phone numbers, etc. We use one for our maintenance systems, and that includes contractor details, a list of repairs. It also helps tenants to top up their boiler, for example. There is another system that we started using in 2022, and it's an account software process. So the processes are there, the systems are there in order to streamline our processes, make them quicker, as essentially, I guess, what we want to do, but also to make sure that they work is to use the systems, but to undergo every bit of training before we let loose on them to be able to use them day to day. The systems are great because we all have our individual usernames and passwords, but we all see what everyone else sees on the screen. So if you update your notes, I can go in and I can take the next call and use those notes to progress the call. The account software maintenance, everyone has access to be able to move things on.
What happens if people don't use the systems? Say you have somebody on your team that's not as systems driven as you and doesn't put the information up. How does that impact everybody else?
So a couple of my team members and I, we hold a lot in our heads, and there has definitely been times where I've said, has anyone spoken to this person today? Oh yeah, I've spoken to them. And then I just think that's a 5-minute conversation that didn't have to happen, because I would have logged into the system, seen that they've updated the notes and they've spoken to the person. And so it wastes a lot of time. There are sometimes multiple people involved when they just don't need to be involved.
And time's the one thing we can't get back.
You're right.
We get so many hours between 9 and 5, and it's really important that we use those productively. Kirsty, one last question. If there was one piece of advice that you could give your younger self that might have made life easier, what would it be?
Do it earlier. Do it sooner. Whilst I really enjoyed working with employers at the time, there were things I didn't enjoy and that I didn't like, and I think that made my life a wee bit harder. However, there are definitely things that I didn't like and that I learned to not do when I started my own business, and so I'll be forever grateful for that.
Kirsty, thank you for spending time with us this morning and for sharing so many really valuable insights that are so relevant to anybody working in a team, working in a business, working in any kind of sector. Thank you so much. It was so good to have you.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
So let's just recap on some of the really important insights from our guest today, Kirsty Lockhart. And I've so many notes. So she started with saying about making good choices, feel the fear and do it anywhere. And if she had one piece of advice, it would be to do it earlier. So starting her own business was what she was talking about, but she would have done it earlier. Ensure your values are aligned with the values of the agency. One of the agencies she talked about, it just wasn't a good fit because there wasn't enough humanity in the interactions. So if it's not a good fit, well then look and see, can you either improve from within, or maybe you just need to look elsewhere. Then she talked about the importance of planning and reviewing. I loved her 2 different headings, her Motivational Monday, where we set things up for the week, and then Tidy Friday, where we check off that we got everything that needed to be done. And then that really important bit about tackling procrastination. whatever the reason is that it's not done, doesn't matter. Let's figure out how do we get it done so that we have a good weekend and really tidy up for the week. And then she talked about the importance of systems in order to be efficient, in order to get things done faster, and in order to make sure that we don't drop the balls. And everybody benefits when everybody uses the system. And finally, I love that piece about accepting personal responsibility when things don't go right. If we make a mistake, we have to figure out how are we going to fix it, take personal responsibility, and do whatever it takes to make it right. Thank you so much for joining me on Success is Never Accidental. And remember, the difference between being successful and not is whether you take action on the things that we learned from today's speaker.